pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll with Atlantic. Flight downside at speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks, good morning. It is early in the morning down on the Space Coast as we stand by for another live Falcon 9 launch. SpaceX getting busy this morning, putting another 60 Starlink satellites up this morning. Let's see if we've got a live feed. You know how it always starts. Let us know. Can you hear me right now? Not running the camera this morning, but let me know that you can hear me just fine. I'm John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight, back in the NASA Spaceflight studio, which is just my place. It's all good. Just let me know that you can hear us, and we will check in with Chris Gebhardt. Sounds good, Zach. Thank you very much there. Good morning. Hear you perfectly. Audio's good. All right. 5x8. Wow, that's even better than 5x5. Let's check in with Chris Gebhardt. Chris, how are you doing this early morning?
Hey, I am doing good, Daz. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm awake technically. Rolled out and fired up the stream, and you've already been on the road for an hour this morning to get down to the Cape. I think you're at the press site this morning, aren't you?
I am indeed. I am here at the Kennedy Space Center right by the Vehicle Assembly Building. The water you see in front of me is the turn basin where, for the SLS program, they will bring the core stage and the launch vehicle adapter in by barge, where they brought the external tanks for the shuttle program and some of the Saturn stages in on. So a very historic turn basin for a very historic launch pad. And of course, it's a gorgeous sunrise here this morning on the east coast of Florida after a wonderfully cloudless night. So visibility should be really good. And obviously, weather here at the Kennedy Space Center, not an issue for liftoff this morning.
What was our latest weather report? Have we got an update on that? Are we something percent go or?
So the last weather report that was received was yesterday, at which point they were 80% go for weather.
Nice.
And that 80% is here. One of the things you can never discount in Florida this time of year is a brief little shower or thunderstorm that might pop up over the Gulf Stream and move inland. So you can never quite get to 100% on a weather forecast, no matter
That's
when
good.
you are in Florida. Yes.
Well, hoping it holds here. I think the launch is coming up in just under an hour right now. What time is the launch this morning?
It is. So launch is timed for 8:46 this morning, which is the center of their launch window. Now, the publicized launch window is about 10 minutes in duration for this particular Starlink mission. And you might wonder why did they have such a tight window for Starlink? Like, it's not rendezvousing with anything. So why do they only have 10 minutes? And, why do the launch times keep changing for this one? And that's because they're trying to get into a very specific orbital plane. So if you want to imagine there's like an imaginary space station up there that they're trying to reach, that's what they're trying to do today. And the main reason for that is because 20 of the Starling satellites on this particular mission will go directly into the plane that they launch into, directly into that orbit. And then 20 will be drifted off to the right, and another 20 will be drifted off to the left into different planes. And in order to do that, you have very specific requirements for when you can launch. So that's why something that's not technically rendezvousing with anything like today has a very constrained launch window.
They're kind of rendezvousing with a hole in the sky, aren't they?
Pretty much. That's a good way to put it. Yes, rendezvousing. Man, Doss, that sounds like a 60s or 70s song, right? Like I can just hear like all of those bands like singing something about, meeting the imaginary hole in the sky. Yeah.
With some like Zitar music or something in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So as we are doing a live stream this morning, we are going to take some of your questions. If you have a question for us, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight. If you're over on the Twitch side, you know how to get my attention over on Twitch. But we'll be grabbing some questions here as we go through about the 52 minutes remaining before the launch. Chris G, I'll pass them on to you in audio, and we'll get them answered. So tag us with your questions. First question.
Good.
Is this a normal Starlink launch? Is this 60 satellites? Sometimes they do like 58 or something. They have a ride share. What's the payload today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is not a rideshare like the previous three have been. So there are 60 full Starling satellites on board this particular rocket waiting to blast off here from LC-39A, which just to confirm that it's there, we can zoom.
Look at the cinematic slow zoom here. Nice.
There we go. I try, and we have the weed off to the left of the screen just for to prove that I'm in nature.
I feel like this is a John Krause remote shot with plants in the frame.
That's true, except I'm not getting in that turn basin water. I know what's in there. But...
All right. So some questions here. Here is one to start from Prento, and Prento's question was, where are SpaceX mainly focusing their launches for? Is SpaceX mostly going out of the Cape now? Are they going out of Vandenberg? Like, where does SpaceX launch from mostly these days?
Yeah, that's a great question. So SpaceX has shifted the vast majority of their launch campaigns over to Florida. When the Air Force, now Space Force, opened up that southern polar corridor that companies who had rockets with automated flight termination systems only can use. So right now, only the Falcon 9 and the Falcon Heavy are certified to fly those polar routes out of Florida. So any polar mission needing the Atlas V or the Delta IV has to go from Vandenberg. But SpaceX has a choice, and they can basically opt for if a mission and a particular payload permits and is light enough basically to counteract the performance decreases that occur to the Falcon 9 because it has to dogleg around Florida and the Bahamas in its trajectory, and that impacts the overall efficiency and mass that you can bring to orbit. So as long as those missions that were going to be polar from Vandenberg can either permit a return to launch site landing like SAOCOM 1B the other day, or a downrange drone ship landing on either Just Read the Instructions or, of course, I Still Love You, they'll do the polar missions from here. Missions that are a bit heavier or carry specific launch site requirements per contract will still go from Vandenberg. So, for example, we saw SAOCOM 1B launch into a polar orbit from here earlier this week on a Falcon 9, but later this year, the Sentinel-6 mission that's launching on a Falcon 9 for NASA is going from Vandenberg. So they haven't completely abandoned Vandenberg. There are still missions that are going to go from there, but they now have the freedom to move some of them over here, which helps save money and costs and everything like that, especially if you're not having to haul a booster across the country, because SpaceX uses flight-proven boosters for most of their missions.
Gotcha. And Chris, we're tracking a lot of bug noise right now.
There is a lot of bug noise, yes.
Are those crickets or what are those? Grasshoppers or something?
They're crickets and grasshoppers and and all of those nice little bugs that hibernate and then come out and are like, "Yay, find me!" Before I go hibernate again. I have noise canceling headphones on and I can hear them loud and clear, so I can only imagine what it is there. But that's literally just what it is.
It's very natural out there at the nature preserve this morning. So maybe talk about a little bit about that. It's not just a rocket launch pad. Cape Canaveral is also a nature preserve, isn't it?
That is correct. And yes and no. So Cape Canaveral is not actually. Cape Canaveral is not part of the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge, but the Kennedy Space Center is. So this is the weird sort of thing that goes on out here with the two space centers sharing property in some regards, and sharing security and sharing entrances and everything like that, is they can seem as one, but they are very functionally different from one another between the Kennedy Space Center and the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. So the Cape side is not actually a nature preserve.
Gotcha.
But the Kennedy side is, and it's on the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge. So everything we do here on Kennedy's side has to be very tightly controlled because it is technically a wildlife preserve.
Gotcha.
So yes, that's why sometimes you see not great views of launch pads because of trees.
Or small little plants on the left-hand side,
or small little weeds on the left-hand side of your screen. Or small little weeds. Yes, exactly. And it does make it a very dynamic place, because one thing you have to really watch out for is the wildlife.
Oh yeah.
And some of the wildlife is very obvious, like don't go near the water because there are big bitey things that will jump out at you and consider you a buffet. In fact, at Southcom earlier this week, when all the media caravanned in, there were about 50 media cars or something like that.
Right.
And when we all caravanned in and set up on the NASA Causeway, there was this giant, we showed it on the stream, like this giant 7 to 8 foot long alligator that when we got there, like kind of puffed himself up out of the water, like puffed his chest out and was like, oh, a buffet, you know? And that sucker did not leave until we left. It did not let any one of us out of its sight, hoping one of us would straggle down to the water. But yes, you have to watch out for wildlife, and you have to respect wildlife as well. And there are a lot of rules that we have to follow here because we're on a wildlife preserve.
Gotcha. All right. I'm going to grab some more questions as we go. Again, y'all, I know we're just getting started this morning. I know that the bugs are pretty loud. Chris, I think what's happening here is the noise canceling is trying to cancel the bugs, and every now and then you get a little bit quieter because it tries to fight the bug noise, right? So if you could speak loudly and clearly into the headset and try to override the noise of the bugs for us. Every now and then you sort of fade in and out. But it makes it sound like you're out there in nature. Just speak clearly and loudly for us, if you could.
Yes, this is everything my teachers from kindergarten through 5th grade told me not to do that I didn't listen to anyway, so I can talk loudly. Yeah.
What's up now, teachers? Jeez, I have to talk loudly.
Exactly. Christopher needs to use his inside voice, is what they always told my parents.
No, you need to use your outside anti-bug noise voice, anti-bug noise live stream voice, if you could. Just crank it up a notch. So here's another question. Where are you physically located? Where are you watching, and about how far are you from the rocket?
Yes, so if you pull up a satellite view of Kennedy Space Center and the press site, I am about halfway between the main press building and the vehicle assembly building in the parking lot here at the press site, 3 miles, 5 kilometers away from pad 39A. I am southwest of the launch pad right now from my vantage point.
Gotcha. And this is, are there other people around you? Like, are there other members of the press? Are you by yourself?
So about 200 feet to my left is one of our local stations, Channel 13. And then about 100 feet to my right are the ever wonderful Mary Liz and Ryan.
Excellent.
Yeah.
With a cosmic perspective, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, they're setting up their big sky tracking telescope right now.
They do a fantastic job too. They have such cool views of the launch. So.
Oh yeah, I thought our setup was complicated, and then I watched them, and I was like, oh yeah, ours is simple.
Our setup is small enough that you can take it places and set it up yourself.
Exactly.
It doesn't require a little red wagon to pull anything behind you.
No, it does not. Yes, although we might get there.
We might get there. So here's another question from Jack Eppington. Jack asked, how much progress will this launch take SpaceX to its Starlink service goal? So how many SpaceX Starlink satellites are they looking for, and how far along are they in launching those satellites with this count?
Yeah, so that's a really good question that kind of annoyingly, even for me, has a rather nebulous answer. So SpaceX has not really firmly committed to how many they need for initial service rollout. We know they are already testing in the higher latitudes, so up in like the northern tier of the United States, like the state of Washington, Idaho, Montana, the New England states are all good and high enough, and of course all of Canada is as well. And that's really where a lot of the focus has been right now, on testing the latency, testing the connectivity, and everything. Unfortunately, we don't have a precise number for how many they need in order to start rolling out that service commercially in the higher latitude regions. But today, if all of these make it to orbit, there will be a total of 715 Starlinks that have been launched, including the and that includes the 2 Tintins that launched on a rideshare mission back in February of 2018. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Chris, whatever you just did, you just made some sort of change. There were some rustling noises, and then you did something, and it got a lot easier to hear you. So whatever you did, I don't know if you got closer to the mic or moved something, but we can hear you
I
much better now.
Well, that's good. All I did was retweet a tweet that Julia made because she is over at Playa Linda Beach watching this and photographing this. That's literally all I did was retweet
Ah,
Julia. So retweeting Julia helps boost signal. That's what I've learned today.
I
Yes.
wonder, is Discord at the front of the phone list now or something, or
It is like I've got it totally up, and it's the only application up and running right now.
yeah, that may have made some sort of difference there because we still sound a
Ah,
lot better.
okay, cool.
So just FYI, you know how it is, chat. Y'all are part of our remote production crew. We are relying on y'all to let us know. And the bugs that's actually a new problem for us. We haven't dealt with bugs drowning you out before, Chris. So
Well,
every day
I
we learn something new.
well I have to admit this is louder than I've ever heard them here. Oh,
Please call 15108 Sean Smith.
Sean Smith has not
Oh,
answered the phone as he's supposed to,
okay.
according to the loudspeaker here. That's
There
also
you
new.
go.
Never heard that.
Well, Sean Smith, if you can hear us, please call extension 108 or whatever they said. I don't know.
I know. What is very interesting? It's very very still here today. The air is very very calm. There's literally no breeze where I am right now, which is making mosquitoes bad. But I don't know if it's a factor of that. But for the very first time when we got here, and right when we were turning everything on, they actually made an announcement that I have not heard for close to 9 years about what we physically here at the press site are supposed to do if there is an accident early in flight. So that's very interesting. Today we have two announcements that have come over the loudspeaker that we don't usually hear for Falcon 9s from 39A.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep grabbing more and more questions here because they're starting to build up as they
Yeah, let's
do.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, and y'all, we do know about the bugs. We cannot run around and try to kill all the bugs. I even heard a mosquito. Chris, I heard loud and clear on the audio, like so.
I'm not kidding when I say they're bad today.
Well, make sure you have bug spray on or long sleeves or something. I hope you're not wearing like shorts and a short sleeve shirt, are you?
Well, I'm in
Uh-oh.
pants because you can't wear shorts, but I am
Good.
in a short sleeved shirt, and that is proving to be an interesting choice for today.
Well, if we hear you slapping mosquitoes, we'll know that you're trying to live from the Florida bomber-sized mosquitoes down there. Here's
Yes,
another
indeed.
question. Let's see. Do we have any other missions trying to plan the polar corridor? So you were talking about SAOCOM 2 going down, 2A actually, going down the polar corridor, or do you know of any other polar corridor launches that they have on the manifest from Cape Canaveral?
So not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Their next polar mission is Sentinel-6 from Vandenberg for NASA later this year. We know another polar mission that they have from Vandenberg is the asteroid redirect test that's coming up. Also a NASA mission testing that asteroid defense capability. And that's also going to go from Vandenberg that we understand right now. So we don't know what the next one is for them. What we do know from their environmental impact report is that they are authorized to do up to 10 polar launches a year maximum from Florida.
Gotcha. So we don't have anything else on the list for right now. Thank you. That was
Yeah.
Jade with that question. Let's see here. Here's another one. This is from Hari Reddy, and they asked, "Are the Starlink satellites put into polar orbit or geostationary? What sort of orbit does Starlink satellites go into?"
So that's an awesome question. So the first two, Tintin A and Tintin B, were placed into polar orbits because they launched on a rideshare mission from Vandenberg. All of the other Starlinks have gone into either 55 or 53 degree inclination orbits, launching out of here from either Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral or 39A here in Florida. They go into their operational orbits from here because they're building out the first shell. So there are three shells in the current plan, and this plan changes quite a bit. So, but there are still three shells of satellites that they're going to be putting these things into. They'll have different orbital inclinations and different altitudes. But right now they're all in roughly a 55 to 53 degree, so roughly a space station inclination orbit, but a little bit higher than that.
Right?
and their operational altitude is roughly 550 kilometers.
Gotcha. So neither one of those, it's not a polar orbit, it's not geostationary. They have their own sort of high
Right.
inclination orbit, and the high inclination orbit allows them to cover most of the Earth, right? As they sort of swing from the northern latitudes to the southern latitudes, almost like the space station, it gives them more coverage for people on the ground, right?
Exactly right. So from that 55-degree inclination orbit at 550 kilometers altitude, you can actually see the poles from the northern part and the southern parts of those orbits. So it allows for complete global coverage without actually having to go into a polar orbit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna keep on stomping
Yeah.
through some
Oh,
questions.
fun.
Oh,
Oh, fun fact.
go ahead.
Just to sort of pull that together. Um, because what I said there about how you can get up high enough in inclination and altitude and actually see the poles, so you don't have to be in a polar orbit. That's exactly how our GPS satellites work. They go into what's known as a medium Earth orbit, 22,000 kilometers up, but they are not in polar orbits. So they can see the poles and provide that coverage to it without actually being polar.
Gotcha. And so if you want coverage of the pole, sometimes you can have something in a polar orbit, so it's flying over the over the poles. If you have something in geosynchronous or geostationary orbit, that can have the satellite cover sort of one part of the Earth, right? So geostationary, you would have something that sort of always stays over South America or whatever, right? But with the
Exactly.
Starlink satellites, what they're trying to do, they're just launching so many satellites that no matter what, there is always going to be one overhead to bounce some internet off of. It's not just one satellite that you're talking to, it's the entire constellation, and they keep doing handoffs. They can always see you on the ground when you're down there, as one satellite picks you up, then another picks you up, then another picks you up, even though a single satellite isn't always overhead. So they're sort of making up for the lower orbits, non-geostationary orbits, by just launching so many satellites. There's always one up there, right?
Pretty much.
All
And they
right.
can hand off to one another and all of that. Yep.
Gotcha. So a couple super chats really quick. Jala J, thank you so much. Jala said, I like bugs. Well, if you like bugs, this will be the stream for you this morning, because there are definitely bugs out there. And then we also have Rough Rider Show. Rough Rider Show said, good morning, all. Are y'all going to cover the first first rocket lab launch in Virginia? Do we have a rocket lab launch coming up in Virginia? Have they scheduled that date yet, Chris? Do you know?
We don't know precisely when just yet, but one way or another, we'll cover it.
Yep.
One thing to remember with Wallops right now, media attendance is a little iffy for certain things. For example, for Antares at the end of September with the NG-14 Cygnus resupply mission to the station, they are literally only allowing 10 media total.
Wow.
Yes, so 5 photographers, 5 reporters. That's it.
Jeez.
So if that Rocket Lab mission from Virginia it goes around that same time, you can kind of get an idea that maybe they don't really want people on base yet. And again, this is all because of COVID-19 and the ongoing pandemic here. So one way or another, we'll cover it. Whether we'll actually be able to physically be there remains to be seen.
Excellent. All right. So thanks for the super chats there, Jala and Rough Riders. Chris, we certainly are grateful that you are able to be out there at the coop, bringing us this fantastic view. I mean, I like sort of the sun glinting off the water tower and the fairing up at the top. Oh, the launch, the crew access arm
And
as
the
well. You
crew
can see the
arm.
sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool, and there's like a light layer of fog that's still burning off. It's a really cool dynamic out here this morning.
It really is. I like seeing the sort of haze. You see, like, oh, it's not a very clear view of the rocket or whatever, but it looks very artistic. I like it. Some more questions here. We're just approaching T-minus 30 minutes on the launch here. 32 minutes and 50 seconds in the upper left-hand corner. Here's another question. Why can the Soyuz launch in bad weather, but Falcon 9 can't? Will Starship be able to do it in bad weather? Because we've seen the Soyuz
Oh
launches like
yes.
raining and windy, and they're like, send to space, and it just goes. But they're a little bit different, a little bit more careful with the weather. What's the difference between the Soyuz and the Falcon 9 that makes Soyuz launch in the snow, I guess? Not a lot of snow in Florida would be my first guess.
Oh no, and boy, you want to see Floridians freak out. Put snow flurries in the forecast. Yeah, so that's a great series of questions there. So basically, it boils down to this. In many, many ways, Russia and Roscosmos are willing to take a risk on certain weather events. Now, I don't mean snowstorms or things like that. Different rockets are built to launch in different types of conditions, right? So if you look at the United States and you look at Falcon 9, for example, since we're here for a Falcon mission, right, where do they launch from? They launch from Florida and they launch from Vandenberg. Well, it really doesn't freeze at Vandenberg, and it really rarely freezes here in Florida. I mean, it's been a couple of years since we've actually had a freeze in Central Florida. So, you don't need to design your rocket to launch in negative 10-degree Fahrenheit weather, right?
Right.
But in Russia, at Plesetsk and Vostochny and Baikonur in Kazakhstan, you do, because it's going to be negative 20 degrees during the winter some days when you are trying to launch, right? So you have to design your rocket from. Now, once that is out of now that's a different part of the equation than some of the other severe weather we've seen Soyuz is launching. There was last year a Soyuz launched from Plesetsk and was struck by lightning about 20 seconds after liftoff, which is something we would never allow to happen here because it can mess up our ability to destroy a rocket if we need to, if it's
Right.
going off course with either its automated flight termination system or manual FTS flight termination system. And lightning strikes, even though like that Soyuz a couple years ago, right, was struck by lightning and just kept right on going and delivered the payload to orbit, there are a few examples out there of rockets like in Russia, that get struck by lightning and they still make it to orbit, but the satellite is dead on arrival.
Ah.
So, you take different companies have different risks that they want to take with their different rockets, and that's what we see. I know the weather folks here, when that Soyuz was struck by lightning a couple years ago, their immediate response was, "I want to see the weather the weather information and what led to that decision."
I think
Yeah,
wouldn't one of the Apollo missions, I think like Apollo 12 got struck by lightning after it took off, didn't it?
twice actually. Yes,
Twice,
yes, and this is a great. If you go to YouTube and you search Apollo 12, Scott Manley, he
right?
has a wonderful video that describes the two lightning strikes that hit the Saturn V on Apollo 12's liftoff. That caused major electrical damage. Well, not damage, but major electrical issues for the vehicle as it was ascending, almost to the point where the crew thought they were going to have to abort. Um, and the big thing with Apollo 12, while everything very thankfully turned out to be fine, is there was one very important system, and this is where weather rules for crew come in are very, very important. They had no way of knowing if the pyrotechnics to blow the parachutes had fired or not
Oh,
from the two
wow.
lightning strikes. And because Apollo 12 just continued on to Earth orbit, basically Mission Control in Houston just made the decision, well, there's no way we can test this, so send them to the moon. And if the parachutes don't work on the way back, at least they went to the moon.
At least they went to the moon.
Because there
What
was
a
literally no way to test that until
God,
they deployed during entry. Yeah.
what a decision to make. That's that. If anybody recalls, that's that famous try SCE to aux where he got struck by
Yes.
lightning. The computers were going haywire, and then one of the controllers said try SCE to SCE to aux, and
Yeah.
that fixed the launch. But let me grab some more questions here. Hey, there is a super chat from Starship Alien. Starship Alien said, "Notice some space junk in previous launches. Any plans to mitigate this risk? Imagine the result of future space junk collision with SpaceX launches. What are your thoughts?" I think one thing on that, Starship, a lot of times when we see air quote space junk on the live stream feed, it's not actually space junk, it's ice that's formed on the rocket.
Right.
So that's usually what you see is going to be ice, which isn't going to be a big problem, but they do take steps to mitigate any actual space junk, don't they, Chris?
They do. Before we get to that, I forgot to answer one part of the previous question we were
Oh,
on.
sure.
Which was, what is Starship going to do with weather and inclement weather? So this is where the design of Starship is radically different from other rockets and could be very interesting to see. So the type of stainless steel that they are using to build and construct Starship is not conductive. So you don't need lightning towers at Boca Chica, even though you have a 300 some odd foot rocket, a lightning mast sticking up out of the ground, because it won't attract lightning. So it's not going to trigger lightning in some of the other ways that we're used to with rockets here. So in that way, Starship's a little bit more robust.
On mobile launcher zero deck, clear 25-foot radius around LO2 TSM for hazardous venting operations.
I mean, all right.
So they're doing a hazardous venting operation from the liquid oxygen tail service mast on SLS's mobile launcher inside VAB High Bay 3.
It's almost like you're there. Like,
It's almost like I'm here. Yes, exactly. Hey, Gene. But anyway, now going back to the question about space junk. Yes, a lot of effort is taken to mitigate space junk where possible. SpaceX, for example, will always, when possible, deorbit the second stage of the Falcon 9 so it doesn't just stay up there. ULA will do the exact same thing with the Centaur on missions. In fact, ULA will actually add, or has started to add, solid rockets to Atlas missions that don't technically need them to get to their orbit so that they can reserve enough propellant in the Centaur to deorbit it. So a lot of companies are really taking a lot of steps here in the US to mitigate the stages that they leave in orbit after
Right.
a mission is complete. But you're exactly right, Dust. That those little things that we always see floating around the vehicles at engine shutdown or payload separation are largely just ice that forms on the outside of the rocket. And
Right.
this can be a little counterintuitive because you're like, but there's a flame. How is there ice? There's moisture, right? And there's all these things on these vehicles, and as they ascend into a vacuum and the temperature drops, you can have ice right next to extremely hot engine bells. And sometimes even on the outside of the engine bell itself, where the inside is firing at like 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit and the outside, there's ice.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get that. So mostly it's just ice that we see from the onboard cameras of the vehicles.
Gotcha. Speaking of space junk, something that doesn't make it to space but actually comes back down. Do you know if they're trying a fairing catch this morning? What are they doing with the fairings?
Yes. So, like always, we will wait for the webcast for them to tell us if they're actually going to try to catch them or let them splash down and fish them out of the water.
Right.
But yes, they are going to recover them or attempt to recover them and bring them back for reuse. Same with the booster.
Gotcha. Do we know which one of the ships? Are they sending both ships out? I know one ship was a one launch, another ship was another launch. What's going on with that?
Yeah. So the one that went south, so the fairing catcher that went south for Soucom grabbed those fairings and brought them back and dumped them. And I believe, if I remember the tweets correctly, hauled butt back out. And that's, if I remember the tweet correctly, it hauled butt back out to go join its sister up north, because obviously, if you can catch them, that's better than letting them splash down in the salt water. But letting them splash down in the salt water is okay. It just takes a little bit more cleanup, and if you can't grab them in the nets.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So here's another one from Menzo, and this is actually a really good question. NASA spaceflight, with the current launch cadence of SpaceX, what would a third pad be beneficial at the Cape? So we know that they have 40 and they have 39A right now. Do they need another pad out there?
Well, I don't know if they need another pad, but a second house for me down here would be nice with their launch cadence.
Actually, like at Cocoa or something.
Yeah,
Titusville would be good.
Since they live an hour away. There are no current plans to add another pad for SpaceX here at the Cape. How quickly they can turn the pads around if they need to, and the fact that they have two, so they can turn a pad around in about 7 days if they absolutely have to, if it's a Falcon 9 to a Falcon 9. So if you think about that, what that really allows them to do is about one a week. And they could probably, if they went all out, get that number down. But the reality is that the manifest, even though it's very, very busy, they really don't need a third pad for the Falcon 9s. Now, they are building a third pad. They are building the Starship pad inside of 39A, because obviously that one will need a different, entirely different infrastructure. But no other pad here at Cape, no.
Gotcha. And we are getting ready to come up on T-minus 20 minutes. So if everything is proceeding
Yes.
nominally, we'll expect that big T-minus 20-minute vent as they
And you
start
can
to go ahead.
Oh, and you can see venting. Not like the big T-minus 20-minute vent, but you can see the vapors of the liquid
Yep.
oxygen forming around, or the gaseous oxygen forming around the base of the rocket, right? So you can, what I love about the Falcon 9 and certain vantage points with sun angles is that you can see when they start to fuel, because you can see it start to frost up on the outside, and that frost line get higher and higher and higher and higher on the vehicle. It's pretty cool.
It's like we like to say that it's sort of like a frosty beverage. If you have a cold drink or something and you're
Yes.
someplace where it's humid, the cold drink causes the condensation to form on the outside of your glass or cup or whatever. And the rocket does the same sort of thing. It's got cryogenic liquids inside of it. It's got Florida humidity and heat outside. And so you get this condensation. It forms ice. You can see it sort of falling down the sides there, that vapor that's condensing on the sides. So that rocket is getting ready. About another
Yeah.
minute before we hope to see that big vent, right?
Yes, indeed. If all is on track, about a minute. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to grab some more questions again here. We're live. You hear the voice of Chris Gebhardt, Assistant Managing Editor for NASA Spaceflight. He is out there actually at the NASA press site, I believe, looking across
Yes,
the
indeed.
water at pad 39A, where the Falcon 9 is standing by to take 60 more Starlink satellites, those SpaceX internet satellites, up to orbit this morning. Launch in just about 20 minutes, and we should see a really big vent if that launch in 20 minutes is on schedule. Also, back here in the studio, I'm John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight. We're both live, so if you have questions for us, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight. That will get your question put into a little queue. No way we can answer all of them, but we do try to get through as many questions as we can. What is going on? Are you like sending Morse code?
Oh, no. is
Are
it
you?
is the microphone on my new headset that sensitive?
I
Wow,
don't
I'm
know, but I could hear you tapping on your phone or something. Are you tapping
I
on your phone?
not on my phone. I am actually doing the final config on the MyOps for this streak shot that Nate wants to try.
Ah, okay. I hear it
Yeah,
tap, 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 and I'm like, we're getting a message from. Oh, there you go. There's the vent.
yes, indeed, it is venting nice and happily out on 39A there. Uh,
That's
I just love that it picked up literally me tapping on the MyOps. Like,
it did. I literally thought you were like on a Morse code key there, like keying out some sort of message saying, Chris Gebhardt from the Cape here, standing by for the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket this morning. It's like
well,
flash, flash, flash.
well, I could totally do that, and I am happy to do a 1940s stereotypical
The,
reporter
the,
voice. I can even wear the hat with a little press thing in my head. Yeah.
see, that would be fantastic if you've got that good transatlantic voice. Do you know why they use that voice?
Didn't it have something to do with like how the broadcasts would go out and like how voices were affected by the
Yeah.
modulating frequencies of the day?
Yep, it was their audio quality on the original broadcast. They spoke in a specific voice so that it was easier to understand because of the limitations of the audio quality. So I never knew that. I thought that's just how they talked back in the 40s as they stand by. Like,
Well, no. I'm only laughing because as a kid, that's exactly what I thought too. I was like, wow, people talk different nowadays. And then I would be like, Grandpa, why don't you talk like that? And he'd be like, we don't talk like that.
God, the wind this morning, it just looks like a waterfall venting out of the side. It's going
Right?
straight down, Chris.
It really is. Like I was not kidding when I said there is no wind. It is
Yeah.
bizarre, but there is no wind here. So yeah.
So what
Um,
causes that big T-minus 20-minute vent? Is that LOX venting? Is that the tank getting topped off? Like what specifically causes that?
yeah, so you're actually right on both counts there. So as they start to pump the densified liquid oxygen into the Falcon 9, what happens is that super cold propellant that they have there will very quickly start to heat up. And as it starts to heat up, it turns to its gaseous form. And at first, this isn't a problem when you're loading propellant into the Falcon 9. But at a certain point, you need to vent all of that out and away to make room in your tank to top it off and make sure it's full before it lifts off. Because that gaseous oxygen does absolutely nothing for the Falcon 9. It needs liquid oxygen and liquid RP1 kerosene. It can't do anything with gaseous oxygen. So we just vent it right out because it's oxygen.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Moldy. It looks like Moldy Space Industries has woken up. You know how I know?
Woohoo!
Because they tossed a super chat in. Every time they show up to the stream, there's a super chat. So, Moldy Space Industries, we appreciate the continued support. We're able to bring live coverage like this because you keep showing up, and we really do appreciate you. Thank you so much for the super chat here this morning. Again, folks, we're less than 17 minutes away from the launch of this Falcon 9 rocket carrying 60 Starlink satellites. It's the 12th launch, the 11th launch. It's some number of what are we calling this one? We're just saying it's a Starlink launch.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do this. It is technically the 12th overall launch of the batches of the big batches of Starling satellites, but technically known to the Air Force as Starlink version 1 flight 11.
Starlink version 1 flight 11.
Correct.
.com.
.net. .com. Yes. Precisely. Yes.
There's another super chat coming in. It's the high score for today. Heather Nichols with $40. Heather, thank you so much for the support. Saying good morning to all NASA spaceflight. Thanks for bringing us such wonderful coverage. Heather, thank you so much for the $40 kicked in there. Chris, thank you for braving the mosquitoes and the utter lack of wind at the Cape to bring us this live feed.
I try.
Well, it looks great here this morning. This is going to be a really cool looking launch. When it goes, is it going to be going past the sun, or what's the trajectory looking like? Do you know?
Yeah, I do. Yes, so it will not go near the sun. This one's going northeast out of the Cape.
Okay.
So it would have to do the southern polar route to go by the sun. For us from our vantage point. So no, it will head northeast out of Kennedy, and because I'm southwest of the pad, it will largely appear to be moving directly away from me.
Right. Gotcha. All right. So we'll get a look up the aft end, the what is it? The octaweb at the back. We'll get a look at the octaweb as it goes straight away from you this morning. Hey, Joe Kozak, thank you for the super chat as well. We appreciate the support. Grabbing another question at T-minus 15 minutes here. Let's see here. Here's a good one about the Starlink satellites. This is from Sean O'Brien asking, do Starlink satellites transmit directly to one another, or do they only bounce from ground station to another? If the latter, can they use a ship as a ground station? Or could a ship in the ocean be able to talk to Starlink satellites? How do these satellites work, Chris?
Yeah, okay, so there are ground stations, and there are ground receiving stations that they use. There are also personal receiving stations that you'll be able to mount on your house.
Right.
And at some point, the plan is for there to be this really cool, like, laser interconnectivity between them. But a lot of them that have launched so far do not have that, so it's not part of the initial rollout.
Right.
That isn't really needed right now. So that's sort of what we currently know publicly about them and how they're going to work exactly.
Gotcha. And Chris, I'm going to guess you're walking right now?
I was. What can you hear?
So the new headset that you're using, we can definitely hear stuff like that. I think what I'm getting is
oh my gosh, really? That's okay.
Yeah, like a rustling. It's almost like your shirt rustling against the microphone or headset as you walk, I think is what that was.
Oh, you know what they're ridiculously hearing? They're hearing the little bit of wind as I walk and push through the air.
Really?
That's what they're hearing. Because the microphone is actually on the Bose headset itself, so it's not rustling against anything.
It's on the headset. Good grief. It's not bad. I mean, I can hear it, and I'm passing the feedback back to you, so you're aware. It's not that it's completely destroying our ability to hear you or anything like that. So
well, hey, we said we wanted an upgraded microphone, and boy, we got it.
I mean, there you go. Here's a really good quick one. Dan Snelson, or maybe Dan S. Nelson or Snelson, asked, on this view, where would it says vertical integration building be, but SpaceX out there actually runs a horizontal integration building. Are they building a vertical building or something like that?
So they are. So
okay.
I think I understand what this question is. So the horizontal integration facility, you can actually see part of the top of it there to the left-hand side of your screen, right there. A blurry finger, but you get the gist. what I believe he's referring to is the large vertical integration tower that they now have to build at 39A for the national security space launch contracts that they won and have gotten funding to build. So that, from this perspective, would actually be on the left-hand side of your screen,
Right.
basically either obscuring the view of the water tower or just to the left of the water tower in full retract launch position. And this is a building that they are constructing not to integrate the Falcon 9 vertically, but to put the sensitive national security payloads on top of Falcon 9. So basically, Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy would integrate in its horizontal integration facility as normal, get rolled out on the TE without a payload, be taken vertical, and then this vertical integration building would be rolled over it, and then the satellite picked up and placed on top of Falcon 9, and then that building rolled back, and up you go. Shortly
Gotcha.
thereafter.
It's almost like a Pad 37 United Launch Alliance with that Delta Heavy pad where the
Yes.
actual building moves back and forth.
Yes, exactly like that. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. No, and actually, Doss, I have to stop.
Sure.
Exactly like that, because the Delta Heavy is actually integrated in its horizontal integration facility,
Yep.
and then taken out to the pad for vertical payload integration. So exactly like that. Yes.
Nice. All right. I was going to make a comment about SpaceX copying United Launch Alliance, but I don't think I would make any friends in chat if I said anything like that. So let's just go on to the next question. Let's just move forward. There's
we go.
another super chat from Jared. Jared says, "Can we get some NSF bug spray in the shop?" We have the Texas Tank Watchers merchandise, and we have the beach towel that looks like a drone ship, and we could get some NASA spaceflight bug spray.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you got Texas Tank Watchers, we should have like skeeter chasers for the mosquitoes
Skeeter
in Florida.
chasers.
Only the mosquitoes are chasing us. Like,
yeah, Skeeter Dodgers is more like it out there.
Yeah, there we go. Skeeter Dodgers. Yes.
And then, another comment, Multi-Space Industry said, NSF bug spray, get Tim Dodd to send some bug soother from Iowa. I've never heard of bug soother before, have you?
I have never heard of that, no.
That's weird Iowan stuff. I don't know. I would have to do a little bit of research on that, Multi. Thanks for the super chat, though. And then Timothy Bridges did 2 Australian saying, is the top white coating on the rocket paint? So maybe talking about the fairing there. Is that fairing painted, if I had to guess?
There is paint on board the Falcon 9, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Falcon 9 is painted white and black and in its color scheme.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. And Chris, I'm going to toss you a question, and then I've got the SpaceX feed I need to integrate into the live stream here. Also, I've got the countdown net, but it's been silent so far. I have not heard anything come across the countdown net. So you should hear it over Discord whenever it comes.
Perfect. And if everything's going nominally, the next call we actually should hear over the net is either something about the payload or that engine chill down has begun at T-minus 7 minutes.
Yeah. I'm grabbing a good question for you here. So let's see here. Scrolling through 60 satellites. I mean, it's not the first time SpaceX has deployed 60 satellites. They've done a Starlink launch for 60 before. That's right, isn't it? There's a picture of the stack of Starlink satellites from a previous mission. Yeah, Chris, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, no, sorry. You just went really silent. I didn't know if I had lost you or if you had just stopped talking. Sorry.
Gotcha. No, I'm here. We're just grabbing another question. We were talking about Michael had shown a picture of 60 Starlink satellites in the payload fairing there, but that's a big stack. Here's a good one. Who can log into Starlink right now? Who is able to actually get internet from Starlink? Or how do you sign up for that, I guess is a good question.
Yes. So they are testing with investors primarily right now in the northern latitudes. They're also doing their own ground tests, obviously, as well. If you go to if you Google search Starlink, I can't remember if it's SpaceX.com/Starlink or if it's its own website. I believe it's its own website. But if you Google search the official Starlink website, right there on the homepage will be links and everything so that you can sign up for. You put in your name, you put in your zip code, your mailing zip code here in the U.S. or in Canada, and then they will let you know when either beta testing or full rollout is available in your area for testing or consumer purchase.
Gotcha. And I'm testing the side-by-side shot here. I've got the SpaceX
Yes.
official in, and then the NASA Spaceflight Tracking Cam there on the side. SpaceX a lot closer, you can see there with the blue sky speck behind it from the pad cam there. But it looks like we are good to go for side-by-side whenever SpaceX switches over to that view. Very cool as we're looking this morning.
Perfect.
There's a little bit more of a realistic
Perfect.
camera where you can see the sky is not completely neon blue. It's got the sort of gray. That would be water in the background on that shot. That one camera on SpaceX, that sky is so blue.
Oh, that's so funny because the only way the sky is blue is if you're looking out toward the west.
Yeah. So
But, like,
there's a lot of camera work here, camera maintenance, I guess, going on that SpaceX view. Oh, there's actually a view of the two ships out there. Go Mystery, standing by to catch
There
some
we go.
fairings. It looks like, yeah, that's what we've got on the screen right now.
And they both have nets again, right?
Yeah, they do both have nets up. That's correct.
They both have nets. Good.
All right.
You know, yesterday when we were trying to plan out like shots and everything, I'm going to keep talking as you're bringing the side by sides up and everything.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, we had Nate had this idea of exactly what to do with the flagpole and the countdown clock, but it relied on there being a breeze so you could see the flag.
Oh.
And I jokingly said to him, "We've spent all this time planning this. Watch, it'll be the rare day with no breeze." Boy, did I nail that. That flag is not moving. It's not moving, like even a micrometer. Like,
I mean, you could tell because the vapors are just coming straight down off the side of the rocket. A lot of times it almost looks like a flag blowing away from the rocket. The wind's blowing those vapors away, and the vapors are just coming straight down. God.
They really are. Yeah, they really are.
Hey, here's another super chat from Timothy Bridges saying, "I want the paint they use for a Falcon 9 model. I'd get official Falcon 9 space paint." I mean, honestly, you might be able to just stop by Home Depot and pick up that same paint that Elon uses. Is that the thing from back in the day where they would just walk out at Hawthorne? They would just walk to the Home Depot and pick up parts that they needed to build rockets?
Yeah. Oh, well, there's actually one company that still does that, Rocket Crafters here in Titusville.
Yeah.
In Cocoa Beach. What they needed, sugar? I think it was sugar that they needed for like their why
something.
is this word totally blanking for me? Yeah, they're a combination of liquid and salt hybrid. Their hybrid engine that they're working on. They needed sugar for a test, and they ran out, so they went to Walmart. They literally went to Walmart and just bought sugar off the shelf, came back and did the test, and it was fine. So
well, it doesn't have to be special space sugar or anything like that. You can just go to Walmart and pick it up. Now, NASA Spaceflight Livestream, not sponsored by Walmart. Here's another membership as well. Suji, thank you so much for the new membership. Again, y'all, if you sign up for a membership on the YouTube channel, you can get access to various things, early videos, etc. So we appreciate the new membership. Let me see. Chris, we're down under 5 minutes. We're actually down to 4 minutes here. So let's get a camera check. You get all set on the camera, manual focus, whatever you need to do, and let me know when you're ready to go.
Yep, I need to switch that to manual. Thank you for that reminder. Yes.
Yeah,
because it was still on auto from the other night.
Yep. And as soon as we got up with the sun behind the rocket, or the sun off to the side of the rocket, it glint off the dust on the lens, and then we lose the focus. But just let me know when you get that set to manual focus for the launch here.
Yes, that is all on manual focus now. Yes.
All right, good deal. And less than 4 minutes now. Do we want to switch over to the camera shotgun microphone so we get the launch noise?
I just turned that on as well. Yep, so we should be good on that as well.
All right, so let's stand by here, and I'm going to set you to non-real-time mode so we can use the camera audio. Now there's a car back. Sounds like we're at Boca Chica. There's a car backing up or something, a truck.
That was...
All right, and we are going to go... All right, let's see if we can get Chris here back on the camera audio. Bring the monitoring up on that. All right, Chris, talk into the shotgun for me. Let me make sure I've got you.
All right, shotgun audio test 1, 2, 3.
Sounds good. We got it. Thank you.
1, 2, 3. All right, cool. And we can hear that the stages are beginning to close out for flight here with pressurization. So everything continuing to go well in the final few minutes as we progress down toward liftoff, just under 3 minutes from now. And of course, this is not the only SpaceX event that's happening today, is it, Das?
No, there's some stuff happening at Boca Chica. That window out there opens very shortly here. They're maybe trying a hop of that Starship SN6, and I guarantee you, I'll be in the studio here all day bringing live coverage from Boca Chica, Texas as well. We're sort of watching the timing there, and we'll bring that. We don't have an exact time for the stream, but that's coming up this morning, afternoon. I guess you'll just have to follow the channel and subscribe to notifications so you can get notified when that live stream goes live. Chris, the water tower.
Yes, the water tower is overflowing. So how do they figure out when the water tower is full? Just fill it till it overflows. Look! That's literally what that is. That's how they know that the water tower is full. Yeah. And there's our T-minus 2 minute vent, another indication that things are going very well for our countdown here today.
Yeah, and Chris, we're in non-real-time mode, so there's a little bit of a delay between when you hear me and stuff like that. But to remind everyone really quickly, when we bring up the SpaceX feed does come in on a much longer delay than our own camera here. That bounces through all sorts of different relays before it gets to us. So there may be a slight timing difference, but it does look like SpaceX is within 10 seconds of us this morning. Should be pretty close, but soon you'll see that countdown timer disappear from the screen because we're less than a minute. Chris, take it away, real time on your end. Go, go, go.
Okay, less than 1 minute away. Let me configure the camera for tracking, because that's important, right? Tracking's important. You guys want to see the rocket when it launches, right? Right, that's important.
Rocket busting to make sure the camera is free to track it.
Indeed. All right, so standing by now, water deluge will be a huge thing that will begin pumping water toward the Falcon 9 for acoustic protection, and then we will see the Merlin engines ignite. That exhaust will come out the left-hand side of your screen, the north side of the flame trench there at 39A, and then we should have a liftoff right around that same time. Engine ignition of the Falcon 9. Which is right there, and liftoff of Falcon 9 is the 12th flight of Starlink. So here we go. Look at that. Look at Falcon 9 go.
Look at that. That is a pretty shot this morning, Chris. Let's see if we can get the vapor cone. There was a little vapor cone right there. That was beautiful. Excellent job with the track there, Chris. I know you probably just hear rocket noises. You probably can't hear me at all.
I can barely hear you.
Yeah.
Right,
it's all good.
Isn't it even on the manual focus here? Yeah.
You're good. You're
There's
good.
so much humidity. There's our vapor trail, which so there's our vapor trail, exactly what we would expect as the Falcon 9 continues to ascend up through 40,000 feet here. Falcon 9 now having pitched over, gaining much more horizontal acceleration than vertical acceleration, which is exactly what we need right now to manage the energy and the trajectory for an orbit insertion here off the coast of the Carolinas. Falcon 9 heading out northeast from the Kennedy Space Center and Pad A gorgeous liftoff so far into a cloudless morning sky here in Florida. You'll be all happy to know that the bugs, which were slightly disturbed by the sound, are now back and making their own sound. Because, we are a wildlife preserve. But there you can still see it in the screen. The contrail of the Falcon 9 as she heads downrange. Of course, the
The booster will separate here momentarily after a shutdown of the 9 Merlin engines, and then we'll proceed onward to attempt a landing on, of course, I Still Love You, the drone ship that is stationed about 630 kilometers northeast of the pad, waiting to catch it. I believe that was engine shutdown. I lost it.
It looks like it.
With a little puff on my screen. So yeah, let me. There we go, and I hear them say Biko.
And right, there you have the stage set.
Good staging.
MVAC has started.
See the stiffener rings come out, and we see that Merlin vacuum engine igniting in the second stage there.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, and we can see a nice contrail here, Doc. If you want to like do picture-in-picture again.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, there go the fairings. Yeah, a gorgeous plume because there's no wind, so the plume just stays here now. That is all of the exhaust from the ignition. That's all the ignition exhaust. Like that's just hanging in the air over 39A right now, not moving. But yes, so we have had a successful first stage flight. The booster is on its way to the Of Course I Still Love You drone ship. No boost back burn for this one. Very, very little propellant margin remaining in the Falcon 9's tanks for a landing. Oh, our alligator friend is back.
Uh-oh. I'll have to switch back to the side-by-side.
In the turn bait. There's an alligator that just... Yeah.
Do you have the camera on it?
Oh, he's behind trees now. I can't.
Oh,
no. No, it went behind one of the bushes. I'll see if I can get him later, but yes, the fairings also separated, so they are on their way down toward Go Mystery and Go Mischief, which are standing by to attempt to catch them, or if conditions don't permit, to let them splash down into the water and then fish them out for recovery and reuse. So far so good as that second stage continues to take the Starling satellites into orbit. Let me see if I can get our friend here. There we go.
Let's see what we've got here on the Gator cam. Let's see. Oh, there he is. We were tracking a Falcon 9, and now we're tracking another type of wildlife out at the Cape. That would be an alligator going by, making sure no one gets too close to the pad.
Yep. Yes,
Chris,
KSC security is what we call them. Yes.
KSC security.
Both vehicles are following.
We'll get Chris back over to real time here. Chris, you should be back on real time comms.
Awesome, and of course we heard that call out over the net that both stages are following a nominal trajectory, and that is very, very good, especially for the second stage. You know, we say quite often here on NASA's on our live streams, especially for Falcon 9 missions, that watching the boosters come back and land is always really cool. It's always thrilling and exhilarating, but what we need to first and foremost remember and keep our eye on is that second stage, because it is carrying the entire reason that there was a launch today and the payload up into orbit. So that is what we really want to pay the most bit of attention to, especially those calls that everything is normal or nominal, both meaning the same thing in that particular regard. So yeah, it is very interesting. That was super loud here. The humidity in the air just does awesome things to sound, especially when there's no wind buffeting it around. That was a very, very loud Falcon 9 liftoff this morning.
Yeah, it was. When you get the humidity in the air, it helps transmit the sound a little bit better. There's more, I guess, mass or volume in the air to send energy your way, which is what sound really is. But we're just now over 6 minutes, and we're coming up on that re-entry burn on the booster. You can see the grid fins have deployed. You can see the curvature of the Earth as the booster returns back down on its trajectory towards the drone ship. Every now and then you get a couple little, that was something coming off the bottom of it. A piece of ice came off the bottom, it looked like, and the rocket flew past the piece of ice. See the grid fins sort of moving. They sort of turn to help guide that trajectory. There is the entry burn. So the engine's actually acting as a heat shield. What is it? Supersonic retro propulsion. They're protecting the rocket from some of the reentry heat by actually lighting the engines. A little bit of a misnomer there. Like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Maybe it's not. What's the word I'm looking for, Chris? Doesn't make sense. Not intuitive.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
yes,
we've
because,
got
and sorry, the audio cut out there, but I think I literally came back right as I was hearing you say use fire to cool down.
you got it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming the entry burn happened as it was supposed to.
That's correct. That was the entry
Okay,
burn,
cool.
and we're coming up on the landing burn next. SpaceX has cut over to just the upper stage shot, switching back and forth between those two cameras. But soon, I hope we get a live view of that engine or of that landing burn. We will see.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Let's see. Of course,
Stage
I
one,
still love
entry
you.
transonic.
Yep. Of course, I Still Love You has done really, really well with live transmissions that don't pick up recently. So let's hope. Okay. MBAC is throttling down. Okay. Which is good. The MBAC is that upper stage engine, the single Merlin on the second stage of the Falcon 9 called the
Yep.
MBAC. And that would be throttling down to reduce acceleration. To reduce
Stage one,
acceleration
landing burn, startup.
and the load. And there we go, the landing burn. Here we go.
Yep.
So you're my eyes, Josh. You're my eyes.
It doesn't look
on
like
what
we're
we
getting a live feed from SpaceX right now. They have started the landing burn, SpaceX has said, but let's see if we cut to the drone ship at the last second here,
Stage one,
or
main
maybe
leg
cut to a
deploy.
shot of the rocket on the drone ship. Right now, we're just seeing that second stage continue on. There's the drone get. And there is a rocket on the drone ship. We actually got a live feed of the rocket coming down, a couple pixels in there, but yeah.
All right, and that second stage should be just about to finish off its burn to enter orbit.
Yep, we've got SECO confirmed as well, Chris.
All right, cool. Yeah, these Starlink missions, they happen at roughly the same time as one another. The landing
nominal orbital insertion.
Yeah, nominal orbit. That's what we want to hear, right?
Yep.
All right, so so the next major event then is separation of the Starling satellites, I believe.
That's correct. Coming up it's 9 minutes right now. So when is separation?
So if they're doing it based on the other ones, this is always interesting, right? Because they have changed the way they do some of the Starlink deployments. Right? They used to deploy about an hour after liftoff, and on some of the ride shares, the ride share payloads go first, and then the Starlinks go. And then on some Starlinks, they pop off the top about 14 and a half minutes after liftoff. So it all comes down to the mission trajectory, what they're trying to do, where they're trying to get all of them, and what types of orbits they particularly want them into. Some of the more recent launches of 60 satellites have been in non-circular orbits or elliptical orbits instead of 350-kilometer circular orbits to help with the deorbiting. This goes back to our space junk thing. Those tension rods that hold the Starlinks all together during liftoff.
Yep.
Right? If you can put them into a lower orbit, they decay quicker and they re-enter quicker. So again, mitigating space junk and space debris up in orbit.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, and Chris, we're getting a lot of that rustling again.
Yes, I started pacing again. Sorry.
Pacing back and forth. It really does sound like it's rubbing against your shirt or something like that. But the microphone's actually on the headset.
It is indeed. Yeah.
Huh. That's really weird. It really sounds like the microphone of the phone is rubbing on like in a pocket or something like that. I don't know, but we can check that out offline next time. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, we know we have a powerful microphone now.
Yeah, no kidding. So we are continuing to stand by for the Starlink separation. Like Chris was saying, we'll see that tension rod sort of pop off the side and then 60 Starlink satellites deploy. They literally just fan out. I believe somebody said there was sort of like a deck of cards. Like if you had a stack of cards in your hand, you sort of fanned them out a little bit. It's almost how the Starlink satellites deploy whenever they release from the top of the second stage here. Chris, what happens to the second stage? After it releases the Starlinks, where does that end up? Does it go to a graveyard orbit? Does it deorbit itself? What does SpaceX do with the second stage?
Yeah, so for Starlink missions like this, they will reignite the second stage and deorbit it, so that it does not pose a space junk hazard to anything up there, and that usually happens about 6 to 7 hours after liftoff is the destructive reentry, and they usually target it for either the Indian Ocean or the Southern Atlantic Ocean.
Gotcha.
And there's an interesting reason why we target the ocean for those destructive reentries. and that's because even though Falcon 9 does not have a heat shield, right, and will not survive atmospheric reentry, the larger components of the engines still stand a pretty good chance of surviving the heat of reentry and making it to the ground. So we just deorbit them over.
Signal Bermuda.
Okay, so we're just passing out of range of ground tracking stations as anticipated there.
Right.
But so they target places in either the Pacific, Atlantic, or Indian Ocean that are away from shipping lanes, so that
Right.
if anything survives, they just harmlessly hit the water and sink.
Gotcha. And Chris, could you zoom in on the pad so I can get my favorite launch day view?
Yes, we can. Doss's favorite launch day view.
It's true. It's
is
true.
That right there.
Especially with SpaceX, you get that strong back that's retracted there at that 45-degree angle, and there is no rocket left on pad 39A. That is what we like to see because that means that we saw a launch today.
Exactly.
So we are continuing to march towards that deployment. Just another couple minutes before the Starling satellites deploy. I imagine we're going to get a live feed from SpaceX on that. I do hope. I hope we have a live feed of that. Yeah. So we will see. That's definitely something we want to show y'all.
No, we're getting social distancing guidelines over the loudspeaker now.
It was
is
like
bizarre. These things never work, and they must have upgraded the system.
It was something about 6 feet wherever possible, or contact your supervisor. Is that what they said?
Yes. So yes, and I know what this means. Thank you, Northrop Grumman, for this answer. Not specifically about SLS, but another thing. So there are some activities in spaceflight that you cannot social distance for, right? Like putting astronauts inside of Crew Dragon. You can't stay 6 feet away from them when you're strapping them in.
Sure.
Some of the tests that they do inside the vehicle assembly building on the mobile launch pad platform for SLS, you can't be 6 feet away because you need to be standing right next to that person when they are assembling the solid rocket boosters for SLS and stacking it and mating it. And the same goes for integration of Falcon 9 and Atlas and Delta. There are just some things you literally cannot social distance for. And NASA and ULA and SpaceX and the Cape all have requirements of when
Starlink
you
deploy
can.
confirmed.
Here's everything you have to do. And there we go. Starlink deployment confirmed. I just heard over the ComNet.
And we just saw the tension rods come off the side there. That was that big rod that sort of angled up off the top of the screen. And then you see these Starlink satellites start to float away from the second stage of the Falcon.
Fly, my pretties, fly.
God, there's some really cool looking reflections on the bottom of that Starlink. Look at them start to fan out, y'all. You see how they're starting to separate, getting a little bit of an angle between them? That is 60 satellites in a big stack. They are not connected to each other. And one of the crazy thing about Starlinks is that they're actually designed to play orbital bumper cars. It's okay if they bump off each other, isn't it, Chris?
Yes, which is, you were talking about counterintuitive earlier, and like, oh my God, you never want anything to touch in spaceflight accidentally, you know? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're going 17,500 miles per hour or 7.6 kilometers per second.
Yep.
But they're all going in the same direction. So it's the equivalent of like reaching out and tapping someone on the arm, right, to get their attention. You're not going to hurt them by just tapping them on the arm.
Yep.
But it's totally counterintuitive from how we're told things are supposed to work.
Yeah, the important thing is not their speed relative to the surface of the Earth, which, like you said, is 17,500 miles per hour. The important thing here is their speed relative to each other, and they are barely moving relative to each other.
Right. Oh, what's this one now?
Please disregard bells and beacons. I repeat, ODM's testing. Compartment Alpha Bravo 5 will be commencing. Please disregard bells and beacons in Alpha Bravo 5.
Oh, bells and beacons. God, I thought they said bells and vegans. And
that's what I heard.
Why are we ignoring the vegans? Wait.
Please disregard vegans. And I'm like, wait, what? NASA, come on. Really?
Oh my God.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm actually more kidding about the fact that these messages are like coming over the loudspeaker.
Coming through the loudspeaker there at the press site.
I honestly didn't think they worked anymore. Like, I really truly didn't, because they didn't have them on for demo 2. Like, we didn't hear any of the launch count or anything.
Really?
For that. So I really didn't think they worked anymore. But yes, they do.
God, well, what is our plan here, Chris? We have that nice empty launch pad. The SpaceX official feed has cut. We've seen the Starling satellites separate successfully. I've got a separate super chats to run through.
I was going to say, why don't we run through the super chats and memberships, and why don't we take one or two more questions?
Sure.
And then, because I want to be very mindful of you guys and the rest that you need, because we know we have Starship stuff coming up today.
Oh, geez, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah, so I don't want to keep us here and keep everyone on the air, especially how early it is for Michael right now on the West Coast. Yeah.
So a couple super chats. Mark Gautier, or I'm going to go with Gautier on that one. This is $5, and it says, Chris, what is your favorite Nightwish song? Does he have the wrong Chris?
Oh, he might. I have no idea what that is. I have no idea who that band is.
I think you're looking for the other Chris, who may have actually answered in chat. I didn't see if you got an answer on that one or not, Mark. But that would be Chris B at NASA Spaceflight Actual over in the UK, who I think is the Nightwish fan. Also, Bolo Hawaii. Here's one that says, so about this SN6 hop. SN6, that's Starship SN6 prototype down at Boca Chica, scheduled to hop. The road closures are in place. The TFRs are ready to go. SN6 is on the launch mount there at Boca Chica, Texas. We'll be monitoring that situation, and we will bring you live coverage from there with Mary Boca Chica gal as soon as there is something, as soon as we start to get that tank farm activity in the pad clear. But definitely stand by on the channel here. You know what to do. Like and subscribe. Ring the bell or whatever it is the kids are doing these days to get those notifications. If you're over on Twitch, you know how to do it. You can hop over to Discord because we usually get it posted up there as well. But that SN6 hop is supposed to be happening later today, and the NASA Spaceflight team will be bringing you live coverage from Boca Chica, Texas, as soon as there's something beyond wind and grass and humidity to see. One last super chat from John Shirley says, Chris B. Okay, this is another one for Chris B about Twitter DMs. So that was John Shirley paging Chris Bergen via Twitter DM. Thank you for the support there. So some questions, Chris.
Yeah.
G. Some questions, Chris G. out at the Cape. Here is a good question, and this probably boils down to how far away these fairings actually land from the Cape. But Kampsoff said, since there's less wind, would that increase the chance of catching both fairings? The fairings land a long way away, don't they?
Yes, but the heart of the question is true. At the landing location, 730 kilometers northeast of here, off the coast of basically off the coast of North Carolina. If the wind states are calm out there at the recovery site, yes, that does make it a lot easier to catch the fairings, because you can kind of just follow their natural trajectory as they come down. You don't have to worry about, are they going to get blown to the left, the right, the front, the back.
Yep.
And if you watch Go Mystery and Go Mischief on the Marine Tracker, you can see sometimes they're like reverse, forward, left, right, and they're like, they're weaving all over the place trying to get under those fairings, which are being blown around by the winds as well. So yes, lower winds can help with recovery, but not the winds at the launch site, but at the recovery site. Yes.
Right. Gotcha. And then here's another super chat from Raven Zero. Is the rocket powered by Merlin engines or Raptor engines? So a Falcon 9 would be the Merlin engines, correct?
That is correct, yes. The Merlin engines, which burn liquid oxygen and liquid kerosene, versus the Raptors that burn methane and oxygen.
Right. So Raptors are what they're using down at Boca Chica. The Starship is powered by the Raptor engines, and the Merlin, I don't know, it really almost sounds wrong to say the older engines, but the Merlin engines are the Falcon 9 engines, right? They've got 9. That's why it's called the Falcon 9. There's 9 Merlin engines on the bottom of it.
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. I only kind of snicker and laugh at that. It's not fair to call them the older engines. I'm like, well, yeah, because they're not that old.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It just,
they're not that old. They're already being made obsolete. Like, it's like, okay.
All right. Hey, Bolo Hawaii, thank you for the membership as well. I'm going to scroll through and see if I can find some more questions here. Looking what I've missed. Scrolling. Lots of scrolling happening. If you're just joining us, the liftoff has already occurred. It was about 22 minutes ago. The angled structure you see there, that is the strong back. That is what provides support for the Falcon 9 rocket as they transport it out horizontally and then lift it up vertically on the pad. When it's at a 45-degree angle like that, it's retracted back to stay clear of the rocket and its exhaust during launch. But the launch of the Starling satellites happened just over 22 and a half minutes now. The Starling satellites are actually already deployed up in orbit with the booster landing successfully back on the drone ship. So let's grab one more question here, Chris.
And as you look for that, I want to talk really quick about the strongback.
Sure, go for it.
Because the strongbacks did not used to do the throwback maneuver that you see here. And the whole idea behind the throwback to 45 degrees is that the more you can get those upper umbilicals away from the Falcon 9, the less you have to do to turn the transporter or Raptor around between launches. So it actually is, so that throwback is actually a function of not just protecting the structure itself, but aiding in how quickly they can turn the pad around and get another Falcon 9 mated to it and ready to go.
Gotcha. And I think I've chosen our last question for the stream here. This one is from Joe Kozak. It's a really good question. I hadn't seen asked before. Joe said, to our knowledge, have any Starlink satellites ever got caught on each other, like hung up, accidentally hooked together? I imagine they've designed them so there's not any hooky bits on them, but we haven't heard about any issues with them bumping together. Have we, Chris?
None at all. No.
None at all. So that's something I had never seen before. I'd never seen anyone ask if they ever got hooked, but I imagine this is something that they've thought about, they've simulated, they've designed it so that there's not any bits that would get
exactly
act as hooks that would make them sort of like, you know, the little barrel of monkeys thing where you pull and they're all hooked together.
Yes.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
good question there.
So not only that, but if you are interested, one of our past Starlink articles very recently from Danny Lenz actually overviewed where all of the Starlinks that had been launched up to that point were, including the ones that had been deorbited, the ones that were on their way to deorbit, the ones that were moving between planes. It's a very, very fascinating roundup about where all the Starling satellites were from a couple of missions ago.
Excellent. So I think, Chris, if you are ready, that will be wrapping up our live stream coverage from Cape Canaveral today. We can get you out of the probably rising heat and mosquitoes back in the car so you can get back on the road.
Ironically, as the heat goes up, the mosquitoes go down.
It's like the golden hour for mosquitoes. First thing in the morning, and then right as the sun sets, they come out like crazy down there at the Cape, don't they?
Yes, they really, really do. Like if you're not prepared for it, it can be intense when they show up all of a sudden.
It definitely can. But Chris, thank you so much for braving the mosquitoes and driving. Again, y'all, Chris lives about an hour, a little bit over an hour away from the Cape. So when he brings us live camera feeds like this, he's woken up this morning super early to drive down to Cape Canaveral and actually bring in these live feeds. So Chris Gebhardt, assistant managing editor with NASA Space Flight, thank you so much for getting out there and bringing us the feed and the commentary today.
My pleasure, as always. And we'll be here again for the next one. Out of here will either be the next mission out of here will either be another Starlink mission from Pad 40 or the Delta IV Heavy from United Launch Alliance. So we're still waiting on a launch date for that one as ULA works to turn it around. But whatever launches next out of Kennedy, we'll be here.
Yep. Absolutely. So, y'all give it up for Chris. Again, Chris Gebhardt. You can find him on Twitter at ChrisG_NSF. We'll put the link over in chat so you can toss him a follow when I scroll to the right place. There we go. So this right here is a link to Chris Gebhardt's Twitter account. Chris, one more time, thank you so much for bringing us the live feed this morning. And the bugs. Also, thank you to the bugs for being our co-host. We didn't have an NSF co-host, but we had some bugs out there at the Cape that you could hear. How's that sound?
The bugs and that loudspeaker.
Yeah, and the loudspeaker. The Cape Canaveral announcements being
Morning
on the screen.
Right?
Yeah, there you go. Also, hey, another new thing here, y'all. A lot of people might not be aware of this, but NASA Spaceflight has an official Instagram account that has recently been released. So I'm putting a link to that in chat as well. You can see it right there. If you hop over there, we will be getting some shots of the launch. I know that Julia Bergeron got some great shots of the launch this morning, and we will probably see some of those launches over those shots over on the Instagram. So a lot of people have been asking, like, "Oh, you should be on Instagram." Da, 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 da. So we're giving it a try here. You can see there is the new account, and a lot of either official NASA stuff or NASA Spaceflight exclusive images, pictures, streaks, etc., whatever's going on. There on the screen right there, there is one of the images that Julia Bergeron took. Look at the reflection. Oh my gosh, Chris, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but
Oh my
Julia
God.
got a fantastic
Look
look
at
at that.
that.
Wow.
Holy moly.
I'm
That's
actually gonna
amazing.
I hadn't
That's
seen that yet.
that's amazing. I need to go retweet that. I need to go push that out. Yeah.
Yes, I am getting a link to that tweet specifically really quickly. I don't think that's actually on a tweet yet, is it? Michael in Control Center, is that a tweet or is that just a picture she's posted somewhere? I don't see a tweet from her yet.
It has not been tweeted yet.
It has not been
Okay.
tweeted. Okay. I was going to link up that picture, but look at that reflection of the water and the tower and that is such a pretty shot.
It really is. My goodness. Look at that.
Yeah.
When there's no wind and the water is clear as glass.
Yep.
It's yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's do this. That was actually in the NSF back channel, and Michael Baylor got it on the screen there. There is a link to Julia Bergeron's Twitter account, and I imagine that image is going to be making an appearance on her Twitter. So toss Julia a follow there, and you won't miss out on that. Also, one last super chat came through. Mark Service, can you tell everyone how to be supporters? What is this, T-ball? Like you're teeing it up for me there, Mark. I appreciate you. You can be a supporter of the channel just by showing up. When we go live, just showing up and watching the stream, liking the stream, stuff like that, clicking the little thumbs up over there, asking good questions, participating in chat. Those are some of the best ways you can support. Financially, the super chats definitely help us out a lot, as do channel memberships, where you can actually become a member over on YouTube or on my Twitch stream. I mean, y'all are still helping me pay my bills as well. So the subs over on Twitch definitely help me keep this going too. But the other things that you can do is you can buy things from the official NASA Spaceflight merch store. So there is a merch store that has all sorts of different things, t-shirts and blankets, and that's blankets, drone ship blankets and the like. There's some photography from Mary in there as well. So purchasing things from nasaspaceflight.com/shop. We'll get that link in the chat as well. Is another good way to support. Did I miss anything? I don't know if I missed anything. Probably sounds about good. There's the merch store over in chat right there. Nice. Excellent. But we appreciate the super chat there and the the opportunity to do another sales pitch on how you can support us so we can keep on bringing these live feeds to you from wherever they are. Cape Canaveral again out there with Chris G. Later today out from Boca Chica with Mary, Boca Chica gal. Wherever we're bringing the live feeds from, we're able to do it because y'all keep showing up. So I do believe, Chris, that that's going to mark the end of our official broadcast for the SpaceX Starlink launch this morning. Another successful launch, 60 satellites successfully deployed. Did I miss anything? Are we good to go there?
No, I think we are good to go. The booster's on the drone ship, so it'll be coming back into Port Canaveral. So we'll be watching that, and probably Friday, Saturday.
All right.
Wait, what day is it? No, it's Thursday, so definitely not Friday. What am I saying?
Yeah.
I have not been able to remember what day of the week it is this week. Like
I
I'm
still
either
think
a day
it's-
ahead or a day after. Like
It's
what
like
actually is.
Tuesday or Blur's Day right now. I don't know. I
Yeah.
keep having to look at a calendar.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, no, a great and gorgeous launch here from the Kennedy Space Center. The next one up for SpaceX is another Starlink from Slick 40 as early as next week. And we also, reminder, have the Delta IV Heavy, which is being recycled for the NROL 44 launch. That would come no earlier than this weekend or into next week based on turnaround time. So that's the schedule that we have out of here in Florida.
All righty. Well, good deal. Chris, one more time, thank you so much for for being out there at the Cape. We will go ahead and sign off for now. Y'all, one last time, that's Chris G., Assistant Managing Editor for NASA Spaceflight, bringing the live feed camera operation from Cape Canaveral Press Site down there. Back in the studio, I'm John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight, talking a lot and hosting and clicking some things. And then also on the live stream today, we had Michael Baylor, super early, pre-6 a.m. over on the West Coast where he is located. Michael, thank you so much for running the overlays and stuff like that this morning to support the live stream. But for now, this is going to be the official NASA Spaceflight crew signing off. Look for us later today here on both channels for that hop. Hopefully we get Starship SN6 hopping. You know how to get back to it. Like, follow the channel, subscribe, whatever it is you need to do. But as soon as there is something to see down there at Boca Chica, Texas, we will be back live with live coverage. For now, thank y'all so much for the support. Thank you for showing up. And we will see you later, nerds.
Chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Water towers fly! Flight downside, FD off. Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.